Zoom call and I don't hear you on YouTube either.
Oh, there we go. There we go. You hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh yeah. No, basic, not turning on the mic. So glad you came on. I would have done an hour without knowing. How you doing today, Jesse?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you. I'm doing real well.
Yeah, good to see you as always. Yeah, I was just, listen, now one thing I guess I was just thinking to myself is it feels like uh that dedication that as activists we have. Um, McCarran was the best example of dedication in my life in terms of showing up. And before you came on, I was just saying there was, I don't know who said it. I think it was, but I'll say it. Maybe you know the quote. Um, Success, showing up is 9/10 of success or something along those lines. Have you ever heard that?
Yep.
Was that Woody Allen?
I'm not sure.
Uh, I don't, I'm a little hesitant to quote Woody Allen. But so I was saying that because um, this is not supposed to be fun, right? This is not supposed to be fun. And I don't feel like most Friday nights, it's the end of the week. I am so tired. But whatever goal it is I am trying to achieve, I know that it won't be achieved without showing up, regardless of whether I think strides are being made forward or not. You can't you can't make the shot if you don't take the shot, right? So I'm just in that place, Jesse, where I was like, the last few weeks, even though I was down, I was trying to be energetic, and like, and I'm probably gonna be energetic because once I start talking, I start to get to that place. But the truth is, man, all of this, it's work, man. This activism is work, and it might also be the burden of podcasts I'm doing, which I half love it. I love the shooting part. I don't like the editing part as much, even though I do like editing. It would be a lot easier if it was the only thing I was doing, um, but it's not. But in the end, after it's all said and done, I know I'm going to show up because my passion for affecting change is too strong. It's just in my core, and that reminds me of McCarran when I didn't want to go out and it was raining or it was cold, and the feeling I got from everybody that showed up on those cold, rainy, or super hot, or nights when you had something else to do after the pandemic when they released lockdown or the mandatory um, um, lock-in, what do we call it? Lockdown, mandatory distancing and all. When they opened up the shops again, I guess you had other things to do. Clubs and bars were open, and the numbers started dwindling. Work, people got their work, uh, their jobs came back, and the numbers started dwindling, and yet they were a core that kept coming. And it's kind of how I feel right now. I feel like the core that kept coming, and you're here too. So, and I know you and I like the two last men standing always. And but we got to do it, we got no choice.
Yep.
We got no choice. And if this does nothing else, me being here and just showing up, even if it's for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, somebody else is seeing me. And I think being genuine about how I feel about this, as opposed to trying to be Mr. Rah Rah energetic, being honest about how I feel right now at the end of this week. I actually didn't work today, so I should be more energized. But I'm not. But being here, that alone is actually giving me the energy that I thought I would have to fake. That alone, knowing that somebody might see this and knowing that in my honesty of being worn out and tired, that I'm still here, that might inspire one neighbor to say, yeah, I don't feel like writing that sign. I don't feel like going to that march. I don't feel like calling that senator. I don't feel like protesting that injustice. But man, look at that guy. He's in his apartment with another guy. And he's in his apartment or house. And they just there because they don't have a plan today. I don't have a plan today. I don't have a, I didn't write out my presentation, my storyline, my outline. I didn't write any of that. But I just showed up. Showing up is 9/10 of success. So, how do you feel about that, Jesse?
I'm with you, man. You know, I my experience at the bus stop proves that, which is that 90% of it is just hanging out, waiting for something to happen. But if you're not there, you know, then you miss the 10%. You know, sometimes some days I'll just be there for an hour or two, just reading my book. Hello, how you doing? Nice to see you. That's it. And then some days, you know, I run into like a council person, or I run into like, you know, want to like, oh, like I had a perfect opportunity at the bus stop where this woman that I know who just had a baby and just got into her new apartment. I was just like, oh, by the way, I happen to be moving out of my apartment. Do you need silverware or glasses or anything? And she did, you know. And so I just like walked down to my house, picked up a bag full of like spoons, forks, and knives, and some bowls and cups and stuff. Put them
Mm.
in a bag and just like gave them to her. And it was like that is the like when we talk about, you know, helping people, it's so difficult to know how to actually help somebody. But sometimes just being available and then in the moment seizing an opportunity was great. It just made, you know, made total sense. But it might be a couple of days of just sort of like hanging out before that happens, you know. But yeah, you gotta be there, man, every day. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. And that's something that, it's wired into what it's been 20, it's going on 5 years now, four and three quarters of a year since you and I first showed up at McCarran. And McCarran isn't happening right now. I imagine each one of those neighbors who showed up at McCarran are doing their own activism in some way, and somehow I have enough faith that that is happening. Um, but I also think that there's an accountability of, you know, making sure that you're not just going through the motions, that you are actually making a change. That because I think when I was at McCarran, and you and I speak about this a lot, and we got to the book club. It became a book club, which is literally the most active thing that we were doing, was reading the book, which is great for knowledge. I've got books, all around me. I love reading. Um, but if that becomes the stand in for actual work, then you have to hold that person yourself. I'm not holding anybody accountable, to be honest. And I think, Jesse, you would align with me, and I hear you say it a lot, that who are you to judge? Not in those words, but the truth can be viewed from different angles, and what is the truth. So I can't really sit here and say that this person is not doing what I think they should be doing for the cause, but I can challenge each individual to look within and say, is this a stand-in and an excuse for the real work that I should be doing? Um, and we had this conversation like 2 or 3 weeks back, Jesse, about calling the thing, holding people accountable. So I would say I'm not so much holding individuals accountable as much as I am holding the goal for those individuals that say they want to reach that goal accountable for themselves with that goal in mind. So if I don't know if that makes sense. Um, but I have before I got on today, I felt a little bit down, like, and this happens to activism and activists all the time. It's probably the the self the self flogging. What's the word? What's that?
Yeah,
Self
self-flagellation.
self flagellation. it's it's part of the um role of an activism, which is to, you know, suffer almost. It's almost the cross that we bear. And it's like, man, you just know you're going to go through that cycle. Man, where is everybody? Why don't we have more people? You see it in the marches. You may have 100 people, you expect 10,000, and that person that expected 10 and got 100 is like, yeah, the person that expected 10,000 and got, you know, 100 is, it's a perspective thing. So I like to do this. This is what I do, and this is what actually really keeps me motivated is, I and I've been doing this, and Jesse, you also inspiration for this kind of perspective on social media. And um, I'm not where you are, Jesse, where you are pretty much off of social media. But I am at a place, and I've been able to develop a perspective on social media where every single view, every single engagement I get, it's like this person is with me in the room. And that's how I can appreciate if it's 5 views or 500,000 views, because it's another person that heard, even if they heard 30 seconds or they tuned in for an hour. That's activism. And that's how I view this. And that keeps me going. If I can reach one person this week, let me see if we got one viewer. Oh, we got 2 watching. See, I'm reaching 2 people. It might be me and you, Jesse, by the way. But
I think I have it open but minimized now. I don't know. So yeah, it might be me. But yeah, it's all good. Well,
but
because it's so funny because like when we talk about McCarran, we started with hundreds of people to speak in front of. That was like the first time I ever did like public speaking was in front of like hundreds of people. You know, like what? And
yeah,
then it slowly dwindled and we kept doing our thing. But um, that was wild. And at the beginning it was thousands. And it's so like yeah, you're it's just
I tell you
sometimes
what.
the scale of the thing is so interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny too because when you mentioned that thousands, did you get to speak when it was thousands? I didn't get a chance to
No, no,
speak.
no, 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 no. That I didn't get there until maybe a couple of weeks in or something. I didn't
Mm,
I didn't make it to McCarran. I can't remember how I found that one particularly, but I latched on to McCarran because to me it seemed like the most sustainable one, which was true. Um, and so I wanted something that was sustainable because to me, gathering all these people like and marching, I just didn't see it long term working. So I wanted something that was more sustainable. And this gathering in the park and occupying the park, I was like, yeah, right here, this can go on for a long time, and it did. And so that to me was how I started. And then I got inspired. And then when the open mic started happening, I was like, well, I got something to say. I mean, if it's open and nobody's got it and there's an open slot, like I'll say what I have to say. And that was really, I still have those videos. I don't watch them very often, but they're precious to me.
yeah, and when you shared that audio clip with me, it was probably the first time I listened to actually that clip when you and I first spoke. That was shocking to me that you
Yeah,
had that. I
right.
was I was like I didn't know it existed.
Yeah,
And to hear that and to hear you introduced and me introduced, and even at the end, I heard you talking. It sounded like um, you were talking, and I was hearing in that clip the same thing I heard when I was there, because I remember hearing you talk off to the distance and really kind of being drawn to you. And so that was magical to have that. Um, I haven't looked at many. I know there are a lot of clips out there. Not a lot, but there was a few. Mano was recording, like a handful of people were recording. I was recording as well. Um, but that was just, you were doing the audio when we were trying to do video and audio, most of us, and that was a wonderful thing. Um, but yeah, I didn't get to. It's even when I spoke on that day, Jesse, I was very nervous because it was my first time speaking in front of, hundreds of people or whatever the number was, dozens or hundreds. And I don't know if I would have been able to speak. I don't think I would have been able to speak in front of thousands, but I think about it now, like if, God forbid, that something like that happened again, and there was an movement like that, and it could happen for good reasons as well. So let's not say God forbid. It could be something that's celebratory. And I had to speak in front of thousands again. I'll be ready. I'm confident I'll be ready this time. So I only imagine those folks that spoke then, they they spoke in a way that it felt like they had their experience before that summer. They were already used to speaking, whether it was entertainers. I know some of them were musicians and poets. Um, but there's a part of me that wants to get that audience again because, and I was thinking about this, Jesse, and let me know what you think about this. There's a part of me that, so we're talking about with specifically with the 1619 party that we launched about uniting our um, vote empowered, uniting our dollar, um, empowering our vote. And I'm starting to realize, so this idea about reaching one person at a time, I'm realizing that in a way, what's happening with social media, with me and how I view it and I perceive it, um, each person that either just watches or engages, that's akin to organizing a vote. Somebody is saying, I approve, or I heard you, or I dislike. And because I am now in this week equating the two, I am putting more value on social media engagement. And if I had a chance to speak in front of thousands of people, I realized that you need to spread whatever message it is that I am trying to spread about injustice and the different approaches and models and blueprints that I'm working out in my head that I think will work, or I think at least needs to be shared and can combine with other ideas, that we need to have people hear that. Whether it's two this week or 12 or 1200, that is what it's about. So I'm not as dismissive now in this week about social media engagement as I was with the years that you and I have been talking about it. Um, and translating that to actually speaking to people in the real world. Um, the reason that I would want to speak in front of thousands of people, because I really feel strongly about sharing this message. I want to share how I see justice. And the more people that could hear me, the better. That's the motivation. And I'm hoping that's not, I don't feel like that's the motivation I had before that was selfish. I feel like this motivation is because of justice. The more people that could hear this, the more people that would know not to be individualistic, not to be selfish, then we start to shape that world that we would like to see. How do you feel about that, Jesse?
Well, I'm an out in the world kind of person, and I'm off social media. So I to me, that's you know I do have a certain amount of empathy with the numbers, with the sort of the data points.
Mm.
Not to reduce a person who's a viewer to a data point, but like with the website, which is the one sort of thing that we have with the collective, I do check the analytics, and I see who's coming in and from where, and all that stuff, and what they're engaging with, and that sort of thing. Um, but for me, I'm just not ready to have that kind of a platform yet,
Mm.
because it doesn't feel organic or natural. At McCarran, it felt natural. Like it felt like the right time, and I really felt like I had something to contribute. And so I didn't have any problem taking my 3 minutes, and saying what I had to say. But at the moment right now, I don't really have anything to say in front of thousands of people. I'm very happy to let you, I'll share my time and let you speak to what needs to be said to all those people. And so if I end up in a situation, where I happen to have thousands of people who want to listen, I mean, you're the man. So so watch out. You might just get what you're looking for.
Yes, yes. What's up, Kurt? Just me and Jesse just talking about
Hey,
activism and how we going through the waves of encouragement and discouragement. How you doing today, Kurt?
tired, but I'm good.
That seems to be the anthem of all of us every single week. We were just talking about that. So so I hear you, Jesse, and yes, it's funny because I was listening to actually Kurt, this will pertain exactly to you. I started reading how to influence friends and how to make friends. How's it go again?
How to win friends and influence people.
Yes. So Jesse, I'm reading this because I'm in a book club, and there's some youngsters in my family that are reading this, but I felt like, no, I don't want to. What this is like a how-to book. But Kurt, I read the first chapter. I just listened to the first chapter right before I came on, and it's actually really that first chapter was really good. It's all about selflessness. It's all about um putting others in front of you. Even though it's really old, it's older than I thought it was. It was going back to the 20s and 30s. They're using case studies from. But one of the examples that the guy who wrote the book mentioned, and this is the Jesse, this pertains to all of us as well, the activism, is he said that he took 15 years to come up with this idea of social engagement in life. How do you engage? He couldn't find a book that wrote about this topic. He spoke to psychologists, he spoke to philosophers, experts, and they said the book is needed, but nobody could find it. So he said, I'm going to write this book. But what he did is he wrote it as a case. He kind of did a case study organically where he held a class. He told the students, okay, these are some of the theories I have about how you conduct work in business, how not to be, I guess I'm translating it as an authoritarian, how to be more about putting others first. And these are new ideas. And then he told the students to go out into the workforce and try these ideas and then come back and report and then do it again. And over the course of 15 years, this is how he started writing the book. It was very organic. And I say that because uh, the same thing applies to what you just said, Jesse, about you don't have your idea yet. And I don't either. I'm getting there. I'm getting much closer. I'm really close. I do have something to say now. But what I love about what the author of How to Influence Friends and Make, I can never get the title, How to Win Over Friends and Influence People. I'll just say that. What I love about what he did is that he developed it organically, even though he had a goal in mind. And I feel the same thing with my activism. I feel, and it sounds like what you're doing, Jesse. I feel like let's not make it say that it is something. Let's see what comes of it. We don't have the answers. Let's continue to engage. Let's continue to ask people to go out and see if this works, because that's exactly how I feel. I have a shop right now on thevalueexchange.org that, and I was thinking about that shop today. And it used to be the free shop. It used to be spread love. It used to be all of these iterations since McCarran. And right now it's just sitting there. And I'm thinking about it today. I'm like, wow, this is kind of like a showcase. Like, how you have showcase homes. You walk in a home and you see how the homes in the neighborhood would look. It's kind of a showcase shop because I don't really want it to work. I don't have the energy to kind of do the fulfillment or any of that. But I want a model there where I could test and experiment and somebody could buy something and say, okay, does this help the community? And it's part of this, like, capitalism would tell you you have to follow this blueprint. You have to raise money, you have to get investors, you have to hire staff, you have to get a manager, you have to have a board, all of these things that capitalism would tell you you have to do in order to have a successful business. But what I'm finding out is that if you don't go at the pace of capitalism, that you go in the way that this writer of the book did, which is very organic. Let's test it. I'm not in a rush. You know, for me, it's a lifetime journey. This is going to be a lifetime of work. So why am I rushing to get from A to B um, when I could do more harm by rushing as opposed to just let's see what happens. So to your point, Jesse, about not being ready. Yeah, what's the rush? Say, why do something that you're not ready to do? So the book is very interesting, Kurt. I'm excited now to read it. It's like, wow, this is a good book. It's at least the first chapter. They speak about Abraham Lincoln and how he used to be one of the examples that I love, how he used to be very judgmental, very selfish. He used to be very critical. He would this is the thing that you can't believe about Abraham Lincoln. I couldn't believe it. He would he would do these essays criticizing his opponents, his I guess his colleagues in politics, and he would anonymously write them and then like drop them in the street so that people could find them, like scathing criticisms of his opponents, until one of his opponents was so offended by it that he challenged Lincoln to a duel. He found out who wrote it and found it was Lincoln. He was like embarrassed in his town, in the community of wherever it was. He challenged Lincoln to a duel. Uh, Lincoln didn't want to do it, but he would have, back then when you challenge somebody to a duel, um, if you don't answer the call, then you pretty much lose your honor. And he went to do this duel, and it was at the last minute interrupted, and I don't remember, I couldn't find out what interrupted it, but it was something that interrupted it. So he wasn't, he didn't have to, he picked, they were going to sword fight, and it was interrupted, and he didn't have to do the duel. But the lesson that Lincoln learned from that was that he didn't want to be that guy no more, to criticize and to judge. He wanted to, he quoted scripture where it said, judge not lest ye be judged. And from then on, he was all about never putting somebody down, always uplifting others. And it was a scripture. It was like just the perspective of scripture that I follow. And the same thing with they were going through all of these other leaders who Franklin, no, Theodore Roosevelt was the same way. And so this book is fascinating, and it speaks to the organic kind of figuring stuff out, kind of following the blueprint of not following the capitalist self, individualism. So yeah, I do love I'm looking forward to this book, and yeah, back to the topic of organic growth. I'm really into this organic growth, and I think it's the healthy part of what we're doing here. So yeah.
Well, I would say that also another great example would be Darren. I mean, my goodness, his book, what he's working on too. I would put that in like sort of the same vein of what you're saying, where it's like you can't rush the thing before it's done, and like I said, I'd love to hear his manifesto or read it myself or whatever, but yeah, the like what I have, and I'll drop this on you a little bit if you're interested. But
Yeah.
what I was saying is, for me, my personal expression is that piece of work that I did, Attention, and so I give that out to people, and so I really don't necessarily feel like I need to sort of explain myself anymore. It's just like if somebody's, oh, what are you sort of about? What are your thoughts on the way of things? I'm like, here's a flash. It's 35 minutes. Just like put it on someday, and that's it. But I've actually been working on a potential follow up to it, and I've got some work on it that I'm tentatively labeling retention.
Ah,
So watch out, coming to Flash
watching
Drives
out.
2028.
2028.
Yeah, it might be a
Okay.
while.
Why you gotta tease me? 3 years out, 4 years out.
He had me at
Oh.
flash drive.
I know, right?
I got him right here. Just come out in the street. If you find me, I'll hand one off.
Or you could go to thecollective.com, right?
Yeah, thecollective.com, but you can't get it there. You got it. Well, you could email us and maybe we'll send it to you, but
Well,
flash drive only for now.
I'll look out for that, Jesse, along with the the 1 month in the summer. That's gonna be
That's
done
right. What look out for day 2. Day 1 has been a massive success. It's sparked all types of stuff, and day 2 is coming.
That's us. Not us, but that's. Yeah, I love this book. When is the day 2 coming out?
So we were planning on having day 2 by the end of Q4, but it might be Q1 2025. The DJ, who you've met, I believe, has been super busy. He's got like family stuff going on and everything. So we're slowly working on that. And then the coffee table book, of course, is our goal for the end of 2025, which I've talked to you about as well. So we have those 3 goals: the continuing of the 1 month in the summer zine series, the coffee table book that we're going to try and get into libraries. And I've made some connections about who are more experienced with publishing the high quality photo books than I am personally. So that's been great. So
Yeah, I love that the legacy of what started then, even though it's that movement is, I think it continues. I was going to say it's gone, but even though that movement as it was in its first stage no longer exists, the memory of it still carries in that we not only you and I are still doing it, but we still have the connection to the other neighbors, that core McCarran group. And we could always, I feel like in 20 years, when I'm really old, if I'm, if I'm still around, it's still going to be the summer that's going to be the launching point for wherever I am in 20 years. I see that as a thread in a way that I don't see other active. Like I was at Occupy Wall Street, I was there marching. I was on, that was a lot of that blueprint was carried over to 2020. But I don't look at that as there was no through line that ended. I don't know anybody that was marching there. I know one person that I saw in the march there. Actually, she was on this in our very early meetings. Vanessa, her name was. She had another name. I forgot. She has another name now. Yeah, she changed the name, but that was the only person that was there. But I knew her from years before. But with this, we have, we have this. We have all of these kind of references to that. You have, let me get another reference point to that we have right here. I know you never got one of these, Jesse.
is that the hello neighbor, or I'll see you tomorrow, or right? What is it?
Yeah, see you tomorrow. You got it.
Yeah, see you tomorrow. Yeah, I seen you wearing it. Yeah.
And we used to say that because it was every day for 2.5 years. So, that always was that applied, and I was correct to say that. That was something that it wasn't. We weren't just saying it; it was literal. We'll see you tomorrow. Every single day, we saw each other tomorrow for 2 years. We have a Candace here. Thank you, Candace, for joining. Feel free to chime in if you like. It's an open mic. But yeah, there's all of these, memories that are carrying through to what we're doing here today. And for me, it's explicit because, and for you too, because we learned to speak there, you and I on this very mic. This is the very mic. This is Mike Bike's mic. This is their equipment. All of this here is their equipment. And it was this mic. It may have been either this mic. I have 2 mics here from Mike Bikes. So the connection is still here. And so, as I was saying earlier, success showing up is 9/10 of. By the way, Kurt, do you know who says that? Showing up is 9/10 of success. I'm trying to figure that out.
No.
Did you ever hear that?
No. It's kind of. It sounds like familiar, but I feel like you're saying it wrong.
I am definitely saying it wrong. I think it was Woody Allen. That was my guess. Woody Allen said something like that. 9/10.
Or Mel
Like,
Brooks.
oh, it might be Mel Brooks, one of those old timey
Yeah.
comedians. Yeah, but I'll find. Anyway, I should probably learn it because I say that so much. But anyway, so just to we Jesse and I were venting before and about how at first it was me, then Jesse came on, and before Jesse came on, I was like, man, I don't want to be here. But being here, even if we don't speak about anything constructive, just showing people, like for whatever 2 or 3 people that sees us here, knowing that we started in 2020 and that we're here, even though we don't want to be here today. We want to fight for justice. We want to do that. We want to fight for sustainability in my case, and for Christianity as well. All of these things, to me, justice is Christianity, is sustainability. That just showing up, even if it's just to say, like in McCarran, there were nights when it was raining. I was always the first one there, not surprising. And it would be raining. I would get there early because I would do this on the mic before everybody showed up. And I would be screaming to the buildings, and then it would be pouring, and 2 or 3 people would trickle in, and it'll be, it's gonna be like 5 people, and we know it's like, all right, we don't want to be here, guys. It's raining. All right, let's just do the opening chant, and let's do the closing chant. Let's do our 8 minutes and 46 seconds, which we always did. Let's say the names of the Black lives that we want to remember on this day. And then let's do the closing statement. And in 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops, we would be out on those bad days because there was no way to sit because it was wet on the ground. But we just showed up. And I learned a lot from that. And this is why I'm still coming here. This is why Jesse showed up. This is why Kurt is just showing up. This is why everybody checks in, because it was never all of us. The only person that came every night, Jesse, you know who that was. The only person that came every night to McCarran. Oh, by the way, Jesse, first of all, answer that question. You remember who was the only person that came every single night to McCarran?
I mean, what, besides you?
No, I didn't remember. I used to take off 1 day a week.
I
Come
don't
on,
know,
it's
man.
easy. It's an easy answer, Jesse. You know it. The man, the myth, the legend. You know it, Jesse. I know you know it.
Oh no, man, you're gonna put me on dead air.
All right, I'll give you a break. I'll give you some space while I tell you what else I was going to tell you, and then you'll know who it was because I'll give it away. Um, I spoke to all right, Howard. Come
Of
on, man.
course.
Come on. Anyway, so I spoke to Howard last week. He wants to come on Friday night. I forgot to send him the
my
invite.
goodness.
Yeah, he wants to come on. He told me to send, and that's Howard does not go on social media. He does not have a Kurt and so we have our probably one of the leaders, the person that inspired me to speak. His name was Howard, and he doesn't have a cell phone. He never wants to be on social media, but he spoke to me. So when he said that he wants to come on, I was like, what? He retired, by the way. That's why. So maybe that's a part of it. But he was the only person that was there every single night. So yeah, it would be good to have him here. So it was just about showing up, and he was always there. I mean, most of us were there like 90-95% of the time. But even the reason I'm bringing that up is because there was only one person that was always there. I was almost always there, except for the 1 day a week that I took off. But I was there for more hours because I was always there an hour early. I had probably put in the most time, but it was always that's the thing that was amazing about McCarran, and this has become, and maybe the People's Mic is in part inspiration and motivating other activists out there who want to keep active, even in your faith, For me, faith is activism as well. This is what I can lend. This is what Jesse can lend, and this is one of the lessons that I would like to share now about showing up and about just having this space open. The wonderful thing about McCarran, and I heard it a hundreds, I don't say hundreds, dozens of times, with people that you won't see for 6 months, you know, and all of a sudden they'll show up, and they were like, "Man, I knew you guys would be here. That's why I came." They would come from the other side of Brooklyn because they knew we were there, and they would be in a moment when they just needed to, you know, maybe they had a incident happen to them at work. Maybe they saw something. Maybe they saw something on the news. It definitely happened anytime there was another Black life that was violated. You know, then the bigger crowds, and you see more people come. Those when we have the bigger nights. But what they always said, and they couldn't say this about the other activist groups, and this is why I'm trying to make sure I'm here every Friday night. What they would always say, people that I haven't seen for months or weeks, is, "Man, I knew you guys would be here, and I just needed to talk." And sure enough, we were there in the same spot. And that's part of what I feel is the duty of people who are in the fight, to just show up, man. 9/10 of success is showing up. And so, yeah. So anybody else wants to speak? There's an open mic. Anybody wants to share anything? How was your week? Any work that you like to talk about? Anything like that? How was the bus stop, by the way, Jesse? How's that going? I know
Well, I will mention the main thing I did this week was I moved 10,000 pounds of food twice for the food pantry on Washington Street. And I was sore for like 3 days, man. Like I was not,
Wow.
but it got me back in my warehouse mindset. You know, I was like, yeah, picking it up and putting it down. And I was like, I'm not like in charge of nothing. I'm just here to pick something up and put it down. And it's nice to be that like sort of take on that soldier role sometimes, because you know everyone wants to be like a leader or whatever, but sometimes you need someone to pick something up and put it down 1,000 times twice. You know? So it's like so that's the main one. And thank you so much for bringing up Howard. Of course, Howard. What am I thinking? Because he was there every night and he rarely said anything, and when he did, oh boy, do you listen. Because that man knows whereof he speaks, and it's one of the great things that I enjoyed at McCarran, was listening to people who knew whereof they speak, and that's wonderful. So I mean, if he comes on, I'm gonna be muted the whole time. I'm just gonna be Howard. It's your turn. I've been on here, however many times. Trevor's every night, or every Friday. Like we gotta get Howard to speak some wisdom into the world.
Yeah, I'm gonna send him an invite. I forgot he actually asked since last Thursday, and because it was Thursday, I didn't want to send him the next day, and then I forgot this week. But I gotta get him while he's hot, because if he says he's going on social media, take advantage of it. Don't wait, because he'll go right back to his, you and Howard, you got that in common. Social media. So, all right. So if anybody else has something to share, anything, the floor is open. The floor is open.
I will, if nobody else, I got a little something here that part of. I'll give you a taste of retention. If you want a small slice.
I do.
Give us a
Yes.
slice, sir. Give us a
Okay,
slice.
here we go. Sometimes I think the elders are the most wise. They have knowledge and experience. They've been there, done that, and learned from all of it. I look to them for how to be. Then I think of the youth and how wise they are. They aren't biased or jaded. They are free to do and act in a way I feel is beyond my memory of how to be. And so I look to them for guidance. It seems to me that I am the least wise of anyone, for if a person is older than me, they are wiser, and if a person is younger than me, they are also the wiser. But I am not concerned.
I like that. I always love the directions you go into, and that is so
Yeah.
true about the youth and the wisdom. And I remember we spoke about that on the WhatsApp. I love that example you gave of how the young mind, how that's something that we can look to. And I get a sense of that in that piece you just shared. how long is this? How long do you think? I know it's too early to tell, but how long is this?
I don't know. I figured that 30 minutes is like a good length, so we'll see. But
Yes.
it's probably going to be stuff like that, like bits and pieces. It's kind of like a meditations kind of idea.
Yes, I love it. It's the most unique piece to this date. I mean, that I've heard ever, and I stand by that. And it was just a beautiful thing because it also really caught the spirit of McCarran and the conversations we had. And it's another one of those things that's that through line, that thread that I think in 20 years, when people want to know what happened at McCarran, for me, that's one of the documents of the action that was happening there. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jesse. I appreciate that. So if anybody else has anything to say, we're gonna keep the floor open for 3 seconds. Going once, going twice.
Wait.
Uh,
Hi, this is Candace. I'm
Can-
actually Kurt's cousin. Hi, Jesse and Trevor. We've met before. I'm Kurt's cousin.
yes, I remember you, Candace. How you doing?
Right.
Thanks for
I'm doing
joining.
well. I'm doing well. But listen, at the beginning, I was listening to you tonight while I was watching it on YouTube, and I was laughing at the jokes. And I feel like you owe us a joke. Like, let's, if you're gonna end it, let's end on a joke.
I can't. The jokes don't come like I can't script them. It's just like but a
Yeah.
boom. That's a joke. That's for me.
I was
I-
laughing. That's why I joined because you were saying I'm tired, but you were also giving jokes, and I was like, oh, okay, so let me join him on Zoom. So it doesn't, after I figured it out. But
so
this
here's
is
a.
cool.
Oh, I love it. Here's a joke, Jesse. So it wasn't the two of us. YouTube doesn't count us too. So we have two viewers. There's another person out there. We need to find them. Whoever that other person is out there in YouTube land, join us. We reach one person a week, one more person a week. We doing our job, and we reached Candace today, and there's somebody else out there that's watching. So thank you, Candace, for that. And
You're welcome.
the jokes will come next week. I'll write them out for you. This is like my
Good.
this is my my improv session. Jesse, have you ever done improv, by the way?
No, improv's not for me. I don't know how to yes and properly. So, but yeah, the open mics for me are just myself doing the storytelling and then my writing and that sort of thing. I don't know. I try and play off other people, but I don't know. I always fumble it somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get back to the open mic. Kurt, you and I went to. It always happens when I go and then I spend months not going. But at some point we should go back to that open mic if you're open to it.
For sure.
All right. So I'm going to close with a prayer. Just to kind of end this day and bring us to another day. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together here on the People's Mic to share how we feel, to amplify your message of sustainability, your message of love, of self-sacrifice, of looking out for our neighbor. Please help us on all of our journeys and our activism to reach the community, because that is what it really is about, but to do it through love. Please help with this upcoming election that's happening with our communities. Let's hope that the post-election world that will be here, that it is one in which neighbors will come closer. We may have to be pushed apart before we come closer, but in the end, let's find the communities that want to connect, that can lead the way, light the path to something that's sustainable. And this is a part of what we are doing here at the Value Exchange. So thank you for bringing us here together. Be with all of those who are not here with us, and bring us through the night, bring us through to tomorrow, bring us through the upcoming week. Until next week, when we meet again. I love you, God. Amen and amen. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This is the Value Exchange Fellowship, the People's Mic. Until next time, peace and blessings.